Hey everybody, welcome back to episode 4 of Canadian Women in the Outdoors. I'm actually going to have to start coming up with names for these episodes because episode 1, 2, 3, and 4 is just kind of boring. You guys have been awesome with the following so far. I've gotten a lot of great feedback still, so keep it coming. As long as you guys want this, I'll keep doing it. So we have a very special guest joining us tonight. You may have seen her on TikTok as Read Between the Pines. It's actually really funny because when I was developing this brainchild, my partner Caitlin was like, "You need to have this. Talk to this girl. She's on TikTok. I follow her. She's amazing." And showed me the videos. I was like, "Oh yeah, that's Dom. I've fished with her. I've spent a weekend with her." So I'd always planned on asking her. So it's kind of funny how it's now all coming about. So please welcome the owner and founder of Temagmi Outdoors, Miss Dom Nobes.
Hello, I'm super excited to be here, and I love that I met you and then your partner was following me. I just think it's so great and serendipitous.
Small world, right? Like, and
Yeah.
like she was like geeking hard when I was like doing questions last night. She's like, "Oh, and this too," and I'm like, "Do you want to come on with me and like talk as well?" But no, she's not. She's camera shy, so she was just like, "But no, you got to ask her all this," and I'm like, "Oh my god, hopefully we can fit all this in an episode." But okay, we'll get started. So, what kind of brought you into the outdoors? Your upbringing? I know you fish. Do you hunt? Is that something that's new? Have you always done that? Do you even do it?
Yeah, so it's a loaded question because I grew up in northwestern Ontario, north of where I am in Temagami now, and my dad was an avid outdoorsman. He did everything. He was a fisherman, a hunter, a hiker. He loved mountain biking. Basically, anything outdoorsy was his jam. And I kind of got sucked into that because of the fact that it was my everyday life. But as I got older, I became a teenager and thought, like, this is terrible. I don't want to do this anymore. So I kind of backed away as a teenager and a young adult. But my dad passed away when I was 19, and that was sort of like the reawakening to be outside again. And it started with fishing. I got a job at a fishing lodge just north of Nakina, and I wanted to work for the summer and figure my life out and what I really wanted to do. And yeah, applied for this remote fly-in fishing job and got it. And it's kind of been like from there, it's really gone sort of upwards, and my love for the outdoors has really grown to the point now where I own a fishing lodge, right?
So, were you a
Um,
guide at that fishing lodge?
no, I was just I learned how to cook there. I was a cook slash housekeeper. I prefer to say cook. It just sounds a little better.
Mhm.
But it was a great summer of learning hospitality and tourism and everything about the outdoors and just how fabulous the northern fisheries were in Ontario. So
There's something else.
yeah, and so there's a reason I haven't left. And yeah, and then basically it's kind of grew from there, and I met my husband, and he really brought me back to the outdoors as far as hunting it goes. I do hunt. I am a small game hunter, so I definitely prefer just going for some birds, like some partridge. Typically this year I couldn't really do that physical work, but next year hopefully we'll get a tag. It's just like a crapshoot getting the tag. So
Okay. Oh, did I lose you there?
do you got me here still?
Yeah, yeah. No, we're good. We're good.
Okay.
Okay, so we talked about you own a fishing lodge, Temagami Outdoors. How did you come to create that? It's strictly a fishing lodge, right?
So Riley and I, we didn't know what we wanted to do in life, and his
Who
parents were
does?
looking for something different, and that's kind of that's how it started for sure. They were living in Belleville. They wanted something different. We wanted something different. We thought, how about we go in business and we start a lodge on Lake Temagami? Excuse me. So with them, we did that, pooled our resources and knowledge of working in tourism, and came out here and started a lodge. That was Great Spirit Lodge. So Riley and I started that with his parents. And then, due to a million different reasons, it was time to move on and start our own thing. And that was how Temagmi Outdoors was born. And it started off as just on ice bungalows for anglers. And it's been great. I love the on ice bungalows, but we really needed to expand. Riley started doing some guiding, my husband, this past summer. He loves it and he's great at it. He's super personable. And then, yeah, last month we bought our own fishing lodge and we'll start running that in January.
And this new fishing lodge, it's on an island, right? You moved from an island to another island.
Yes, yes. So I think I often forget that that's a strange thing to be living on an island. So five
Very.
years ago I moved, yeah, 5 years ago I moved to an island, and then 3 weeks ago or whatever it was, I moved to another island. Now this is a private island, and it's equipped to be a lodge of some description. I don't know what direction we're going to take it in, but we have 4 cabins that we rent, boats that we'll rent. There's a lodge facility as well, which has a few accommodations, kitchen, great room, things like that.
So, from moving to one island to another, before we get into other things about island life, how did you like what went into moving? Because you can't get a U-Haul. Is it a U-boat?
A U-boat, yeah. Oh my gosh, I wish. And even then, we could have rented a full-size barge. A lot of people do that, but it's still just so much work. Uh, the old place that I lived in had like 24 or 26 stairs to
Oh
get
my
to the
goodness.
main door. So everything that came in or out of that building, the apartment we called it, it had to go up or down those stairs. And so that was the first awful part of it, which is not even island specific, but it was terrible.
Yeah.
Um, didn't like that a whole lot. And then just mobilizing. I guess the other thing to think about is you don't have a U-Haul, so everything's exposed, everything's vulnerable. We had boats. I have a really large steel boat, and I have a 24-foot pontoon boat that's got checker plate decking on it. That's what we used to move, and as much muscle as we could track down, and we had to pick the right days, the not windy days, and everything. We had to buy totes. Everything was in totes. It was crazy.
So, how long did it actually take you? Was it a gradual thing, slowly, or was it like we have to get this done in a weekend?
We luckily we had the opportunity to take our time and get some things ahead of time, but we really did a big push in 2 days. One day with all our friends, and then another day with just like my husband and I. So, and then, like I said, we had all this extra sort of time. So we did take our time, but we did the brunt of it in a short amount of time.
That's not bad then. So,
Yeah.
but now going on to this, you live on an island. Other than obviously moving, what are some of the major challenges you face living on an island? Like obviously, if you're out of milk, you can't just run to the store, right? So, like, what
Yeah.
kind of hard, like, what's hard about it?
I definitely will answer this question differently today than I would have 5 years ago after only a short amount of time living here. Um, but it's, I, excuse me, I love the solitude, I love the privacy, and I love being alone. But it does eat away at you sometimes when you think of how easy it is in a city to go out for a night out. You're like, oh, I'll go out, I'll get an Uber home, maybe you'll get an Airbnb. Uh, for us, if we want to go out somewhere, the closest city is at least an hour. So then we have to plan. You want to go out for a night on the town, you want to go to the casino, anything like that. It's just so much more work. I don't like leaving. Now that I have my own private island, I'm especially nervous about leaving it unattended. So that's a new thing. I mean, it's a busy lake. I know people don't realize how busy this lake is all year round, but there's probably 500 or 600 people who live on the lake year round. So
Oh, wow.
um,
So how big is your island?
it's just under 2 acres. We're not sure. We haven't had it like our survey thing didn't actually have the acreage on it. But yeah, it's say 1.5 acres or so.
And are you like completely off grid there, or do you have internet? Do you have like how are you running water and all that kind of stuff?
I wish that I could tell you I was off grid because it would be a whole lot cooler if I was. That's the answer people always want, but I'm not. I have hydro. It's all submerged lines. I think it's so fascinating, the infrastructure here. All the hydro is submerged lines, and since I'm close to the sort of main access points, I have it. If you go to the far reaches of the lake and have an island there, you don't have hydro. So those are the kind of remote off-grid properties that I do hope to have one day. But yeah, so we have hydro. That's really great. Also, is expensive, as everyone knows. And internet, it's been working good so far. We've only had that one little blip. That's Starlink.
Hmm.
We used to have only DSL up until Starlink arrived, and DSL was terrible. Even to watch Netflix, it's changed so much in the 5 years I've been here. But the
Yeah.
first year, to watch anything, stream anything, gaming, it was out of the question. So we really relied on HGTV and Food Network in the first year or two. But yeah, it's gotten way better with Starlink. A lot of people, most people have it up here, and we're able to run two businesses, stream, game. So that's well, and make TikToks and post TikToks all the time.
All the TikToks. So did you
All
have
the
to
TikToks.
have like a technician, like did you have to go pick up on the mainland a technician to come out and do all the install and everything, or do
Starlink, like for the Starlink?
yeah, like for your internet and TV and stuff?
Yeah, so the TV, everything was set up here for TV. We don't have anything operational, if that makes sense. Like we just don't have an account for things to run just yet.
Oh,
It wasn't high on the priority list, but I know that people are going to come and stay and ice fish, and they're going to really want to watch the hockey game. So we'll have to figure that out.
really? That when they're ice fishing, they want to watch hockey. Like, and I'm a huge hockey fan, but like when I'm fishing, it's like fish.
Yeah, it's people are hardcore. We had one group the first year, they we when we were at the other lodge, and we wanted it to be this sort of quiet, uh, electronic free place. We thought, oh, people could come and here to escape. It'll be so great. We won't give anyone the Wi-Fi. It'll just be remote. The first 2 weeks of living there, we started taking bookings, and people were like insistent they would not come if they couldn't watch the hockey game.
Really?
So that was how we ended up getting all the satellite over there.
Oh my
Yeah,
goodness. And sorry,
yeah.
how many bungalows did you say you had?
So we have 6 on ice bungalows and then 4 cabins on shore.
So it's sleep on the ice bungalows, or are they just like you stay on and then you just walk out to your bungalows type thing?
We have 6 sleep-in, like sleeper huts, and then we do have some day huts available so that you can just spend the day out fishing if that's your thing. If that's, you want the comfort of staying in a cabin, or even if you're staying with another outfitter on the lake.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, okay, running this business now on an island, what do you do in case of an emergency or even like yourself? Like what happens? Do you have to get airlifted, or are you like boating back real quick cuz that's kind of a big deal.
Yeah, and of course, anyone who's listening to this that follows me on TikTok knows that I shattered my knee in March. I was not on the island when I did that, but I did have to get back to the island, which was a whole other issue at the end of March because the ice is starting to deteriorate. And then I had this whole process that I had to go through after getting surgery on my leg, and having to leave an island and come back was a little bit nerve-wracking, to the point
Well,
where
in
I
March
almost
too,
moved in with,
right?
pardon?
In March too, right? Like you don't know ice, no ice.
Exactly. And we had this crazy heat wave. So I had a friend in Sturgeon Falls. I almost ended up, well, V.
Yep, yep.
Yeah. So I almost ended up staying at her place after, because I knew that if I had an emergency, if I had an infection and the ice was going out, that it wasn't going to end well for me. And in the end, it was okay. I was able to stay, and the ice kind of went out really quickly, and it was a non-issue. But those are the things you have to think about. I always say though that being prepared is the most important thing. So rather than I just try to think about how to not get injured when I'm here at those times of year, like right now. I could, like I said, I have this huge steel boat. This thing is heavy. It weighs probably a literal ton, and it will break ice pretty, like until the ice is pretty thick. And obviously, no one wants to do that. You don't want to get out in your boat and break ice when it's -20. It's not ideal, but I have that option if necessary. There's also a reserve here. This is sort of uh, Temagmi Anishinaabe territory, so we have Bear Island, and they have all the medical resources that I don't want to ever have to take advantage of. But if I had to, I could. So they have an airboat, and helicopters do come in. We usually see air orange a few times a year, typically in the summer, but it'll land at the landing. So where you launch your boat, which is about a kilometer from me, I live close to it. So oftentimes, if you had an emergency where you needed to be airlifted, you would have to try to get there. If it wasn't as severe, you could just go there and an ambulance would come and pick you up, and then they would triage you and send you, wherever you needed to go, whether that was New Liskeard, Sudbury, North Bay.
Mhm. So when you said, I know you shattered your knee, what, like, going back, how long was that healing process where you had to go back and forth on the island? And like, I can't imagine what that would have been like, just especially like if you had to go by boat and you can't walk, obviously, right?
Yeah, it's been so today is actually the 8 month anniversary of the day that I broke my knee, which is kind
Oh,
of
wow.
crazy.
A little bit.
And when I first, yeah, 8 months, whew, two-thirds of the
Oh
year
my God.
gone.
No kidding.
So I came home from that injury, and it basically was every week I had to leave, and then every 2 weeks for a while I had to leave because they want to get x-rays, they want to make sure you're healing. So every 2 weeks I'd have an appointment. Do you remember me mentioning the like 24 stairs that I have?
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah. Was
so
your husband carrying you up and down them?
I the when I first came home with the injury, we drove the truck out onto the ice as far as we could. They met me with a caboose and a snowmobile. They put me in the caboose and like brought me to the stairs. And then my brother-in-law and my husband had to basically like carry me up the stairs.
Again, like these are just things like we take for granted here. Like, yeah, if I get hurt or broke my knee, I either am staying in the hospital or it's like 2 seconds. Like, I can't imagine having to go like just through that. Like, especially when you're in pain, probably too, and you're like, this is the last thing I want to be doing right now. I just want to
Yeah,
lay
it's
on that whatever massive Costco pillow that you have that I saw, and I really want that. That looks so comfy. How much time did you
oh
spend on
the
that?
I did. I spent quite a bit of time on it. I really though my like husband made me this corner in with my chaise, my couch chaise, and I didn't leave that a whole lot. That was, yeah, that couch is in the garbage. I think I ruined it from sitting in that spot for 2.5 months straight.
Just a
But
permanent butt indent?
oh yeah, like it was, but I had all these pillows to try and be comfortable. It was, I don't even think I have pictures of it. It was ridiculous. But yeah, I had to go back and forth. And it's not like it was just back and forth to the hospital. It was the snowmobile behind the caboose, or behind the snowmobile in the caboose, or in the boat to the landing, into the truck, down the access road, which is 18 kilometers of
Oof.
terribly maintained road, and then you hit a highway, and then you go an hour each direction. Uh,
Do
so
on the other end there, you say, like, when you get to your truck, um, do you have like an ATV or something that you guys can take and kind of maintain the road, or is that like the county or township or whatever? I don't know how it works up there. Is that their responsibility, or do you just like you drive your truck and like let's hope for the best?
well, I mean, yes, but it is government maintained. It's pretty complicated, but it is, a municipal effort, and as well as Bear Island. But it's hard to find workers. So lately it's been really bad. And when it's bad in the spring, like that's the worst time of year. And that was, of course, when I had broken my knee, gets really muddy and ruddy. And so if anyone wants a job, they are looking for a grader operator, um, and probably a snowplow operator in Temagami. So
Well, there you go for all our listeners across Canada. If you want to, hopefully across Canada, if you want to take a trip to Temagami, which I haven't done yet, I got to get up there. But
Me
I hear
too.
it's beautiful. And one of the gentlemen I work with, he always goes on. He's like, "Yeah, I've got friends in Temagami. I fish up there all the time." I'm like, "Well, that's one thing I need to check off my bucket list is fishing in Temagami." So we might have to come visit you.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
It is underrated. Sometimes I feel guilty talking about it because I don't want to share the secret of Temagami, but it's so beautiful. I have to share it with people, and the fishing is world class.
So, like, what kind of fish? Again, I've never been up there. What are you targeting up there? Like, when you put your clients on the bungalows, or when you yourself are out there fishing, like, what's like Nipissing? You're kind of targeting walleye and pike. Like, what's kind of in lake? It's Lake Temagami, right? That's what
Yeah,
lake
yeah,
it's on. Yeah.
yeah. So Lake Temagami, if you were to sort of, just do a quick Google search, lake trout is what's going to come up. The lake trout here are fabulous. The water
It's like
is
my dream
so
fish that I
crystal.
haven't caught yet.
Oh, you haven't caught? Okay, so now you definitely have to
I
come.
apparently I need to come now. Yeah, lake trout is on, and especially through the ice too. Like, I am dying to catch a laker through the ice.
Yeah, they are they're a lot of fun to target, especially when you have the proper electronics and you can really see them and sort of convince them to hit. So that that lake trout is synonymous with Temagami. People associate it, but lately, with the help of our friends over at Loon Lodge, Adam Pugh has really upped the walleye game on this lake, and we've been targeting walleye like crazy and catching these next level sized walleye. Last year I caught a 31.5 inch walleye.
Saw that. I think I saw that picture and I was like, "Oh my god!" like,
Yeah, like how is that even possible?
and that
What's
was
in here
on
that we're
Temagami.
not catching? Yeah,
Uh,
yeah, and then lake trout. We had one jet. Well, so we've seen a lot of 40-inch lake trout. That's not out of question by any means. But one year in our ice bungalows, a gentleman caught a 44-inch lake trout, and this thing was a dinosaur. It was crazy.
oh my goodness! Like, so I mean, lake trout are usually deep, right? Like, how deep is your lake?
The lake is pretty deep. It's so Lake Temagami translates to deep water near shore. That's the loose translation. I may have it wrong. So if anyone is listening and knows, don't be mad at me. I'm sorry. I'm doing my best. Uh, there's like a 360-foot hole in this lake is the deepest. But typically
Okay.
when you're fishing for Lakers, you're kind of looking for that like 70 to 90-foot mark,
Yeah,
sometimes deeper if you're willing to put that extra work in or if you have the equipment to put that work in.
yeah, because that would be like a lot of weight to get that down to the bottom, too, right? Like,
Oh yeah, you've got to have the right reels for it. And if you have something light, especially if you're hand lining, you're just like, oh my God, it takes
sitting there.
forever. So
So
yeah.
now that December's coming, and obviously you're going to start January, you said you're going to start opening the lodge to guests. So
Yes.
December, winter's coming. How, with living on this island, how do you prep for that? Do you do one big prep for, and that'll get you through like a certain amount of time, or do you do like every like week or a couple weeks, or how do you prep for these? Because I'm sure you're going to get some pretty crazy weather up there when you can't travel.
Yeah. So even today was a really bad weather day. I think that was sort of across Ontario.
Oh, we
Um,
got hit hard here. My drive to work this morning was pretty sketchy.
was it you got snow today?
Oh yeah,
Yeah. Huh.
yeah,
So we got the snow last night, but we had crazy wind today. And when the water is ready to freeze, but the swells are 3 or 4 feet tall. Oh my gosh, can't talk all of a sudden. When the swells are big like that and it's cold, it's terrifying. You look outside, not, I'm just not doing that today. So, um, as far as being prepared on a day like this, I'm not going anywhere. We just actually did our huge stock up shop. We don't know what to expect this year. This is a totally different island. It's a little bit further, and we're on a main channel, our island. So there's going to be a lot of boat traffic. They're going to keep breaking the ice and keeping the channel open for like as long as they can until they can't. So yeah, I do. Again, I've been here for 5 years. I kind of have it figured out. You need to have a really good pantry, and you need to understand what foods last longer so you can triage them, you know. A head of cabbage is going to last a lot longer than tomatoes.
Hmm.
So things
So
like that.
do you can a lot then? Do you do a lot of
I
canning?
do. Yeah, I did. I only had a 400 square foot space before, so it was really hard for me to can, but I did do it a little bit. I plan on upping that for sure, especially because everything is so expensive now. But we do a lot of smoking, dehydrating, and vac sealing, things like that, to prolong. But I mean, I'm a cook. I think that helps. I love to cook, so you can look at your ingredients and come up with something delicious.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So like I said, I just prepped. I did 6 weeks worth of meal planning.
Oh wow.
Uh, yeah, it hurts your brain, and I don't want to be stuck in a rut, so I just kind of listed 50 meals out. Made sure I had ingredients for all of those meals, and I'll make them until the ice comes in and it's safe enough to walk.
That's a big Costco run.
It was a, and they're painful, they're expensive, but I mean, then I don't do groceries again for 2 months, so we'll
Well, and
see.
that's it. Like, so 2 months. Okay, so you go to Costco. I mean, us here, we have to do once a week, and with the price of groceries right now, it's like $500 like a week. And again, we don't have a Costco around here, so
Yeah,
you're only going 2 months now. I'm sure I've seen your TikToks. You start at like what 6, 7, 8 in the morning, and you're not back till like 8 at night.
yeah, those are and like conveniently we were down south. I know I just missed you at the ice fishing show. Uh,
Yeah,
but
so sad.
it was a very quick, we happened to be in the area is actually, we didn't go down there for that. So hold on, I don't want this to mess up the audio. So on our way up, back up after the ice fishing show and the events that we had down there, that was how we did our stock up. So it was almost worse because then we were doing like a 5 hour drive as well that day. And we like to stop in Aurelia. They have a great Costco. It's a little bit quieter than Barrie, and then we do the rest of our groceries in North Bay because you can't pick up everything at Costco. You got to hit up a No Frills or something,
Mhm.
and the dog food and the cat food, and uh, so
You have
we've
a
gotten
dog
really
and a
good at
cat?
it. Yeah, yeah.
So you definitely have stock up for those little critters.
Yeah, one year we learned this the hard way. I did allude to this in one of my TikToks. We learned this the hard way the first year that we lived here when the ice was going out, so opposite end of what I'm dealing with now. We realized that we were not going to have enough dog food to get us through, and ice in is scare or ice out, sorry, is scarier than ice in. I can explain that later. And
Yes, I was gonna
so
ask. So after this, yeah.
we were kind of we had our snowmobile on the lake. We have a Scandic, it's quite a large piece of equipment, and we thought this is it. This is our last day to get out. We've got to go get that dog food and a few odds and ends to get through ice out. And we got on the snowmobile, made it across the lake, no issue. But as we get to the landing, we look over and there's sort of a little spring trickling. And we both went, I like the looks of that. We're going to turn around and park elsewhere. And as we turned around, the ice broke under us.
Oh no.
And the whole, it was 3 minutes of us almost getting it out onto the ice again, and then it was gone. Um, it was only about 10 feet deep, so we were able to, I don't even think it was that deep. And my husband had to swim under the ice to put a strap through the skis of this Scandic, and then we had to pull it out with the truck. So we
That's
learned that the
terrifying.
hard way. Yeah, and we always joke that was the most expensive bag of dog food we ever bought because by the time we had the sled serviced, it was, eight or 900 bucks.
Oh my
Um,
goodness.
yeah, so we learned. So that's one of those mistakes. You only make that once, and now we're really good. And you also have to be stocked up first aid wise. You want to make sure you have band-aids and all the medicines you might need, rubbing alcohol, all of that. Like I don't want to be in a situation where I don't have those things and need them.
So when you're traveling back and forth when this ice in and ice out when it's kind of sketchy, like do you guys have float suits for in case the ice breaks? Like, is that what you're wearing?
Yeah, so we don't obviously we try not to go out if we don't have to. My preference is to just like stay inside this time of year, stay inside cozy with a fuzzy blanket. Like I've got one right here. Um,
You look very warm and cozy right now.
I'm very warm and cozy. I'm actually, you can't even tell, I'm in my laundry room. I've got a bunch of boxes I still have to unpack. But you know what? It's my own house, so I'm pretty psyched. But yeah, my preference would be to not leave at the bad times of year. You get a little stir crazy. Sometimes it takes longer than you're expecting, and 3 weeks into it, you're like, I just need to do something, and you go out. But we try to stay really well prepared. I actually grabbed my ice picks out of the truck the other day because I realized they weren't going to be doing me any favors there. So I grabbed them to put in my floater suit. And
Mhm.
so I'll either use a floater suit or a, inflatable PFD.
Okay. Now, circling back, the ice in and ice out. Does that mean? Like when the ice is coming in or going out, what you were talking about there.
Yeah, so we, of course, live on an island, so the ice the water dictates our daily life. But every year, twice a year, we get stranded when the ice comes in or the ice goes out. Ice coming in is super unpredictable because if there's wind, it's not happening, I guess is the easiest way to explain it. The water can be ready to freeze. Today, it is ready to freeze. I can see, I can hear it. You learn these things after living in a place like this. It sounds different, it feels different. And I did a lap today and I could tell it's just ready, but it's so windy.
Yeah.
And so in the past, a lot of the time, a little section of the lake freezes up enough for us to walk across, but the rest of the lake might be wide open. And last year, that was what happened. We basically had this ice bridge in the hub of the lake where the
Oh.
access point is.
Hmm.
So I could walk, and a few of my neighbors could walk. We even were on snowmobiles, but there were other people in their boats still at other, ends of the lake where it was wide open.
Hmm.
So, and
And then ice out, like when this sled went through the ice, that's springtime, right?
yeah, so break up, ice out is a lot scarier. When the ice comes in, typically, if you have 2 or 3 ice, like look at the chart, so do not quote me on this. 3 inches of ice is sort of like my comfort zone to be walking,
Hmm.
uh, as someone with experience, and that I'm going to be carrying an ice chisel to check that. Again,
Hmm.
if I don't have to go out, I won't. But when the ice starts to deteriorate and rot, that's a whole different ballgame because one little leaf that fell off a tree and landed in the ice can ruin your whole day because that little leaf will become a heat sink and
Oh.
all that ice will melt and you won't even know. And now there's like this hole that over the course of a hot day in the spring will become like a man-eater hole or a boot-eater hole because I've had that happen pushing a sleigh across and I stepped in a hole that someone had put a marker in for a trail
Hmm.
and it was had a skim of snow. It looked super normal, looked like ice, and yeah, right up to my crotch.
Oh my.
So
You mentioned going stir crazy. I'm gonna assume here, in order to live on an island, you definitely have to have a different kind of mental capacity, right? Like you definitely have to be a little bit like I do go stir crazy very quickly. I don't know if I personally would ever be able to live on an island, but I've never done it. Like, does it take a little bit more mentally to be able to do that?
oh yeah, it's I love I don't know if you had to ask my friends, my really close friends to describe me, they would say that I'm an extrovert. They certainly wouldn't say I'm an introvert, so I sometimes am confused at the fact that I'm out here. But I really like the solitude. It's hard to be here dealing with these things when SAD, like seasonal affective disorder, is also ramping up. So
Mhm.
sometimes I struggle. It's dark here like 4:20 after 4. It's
Oh my.
crazy. This year feels worse than ever. Uh, So between that, seasonal affective disorder, and then feeling isolated and not having these social interactions can be hard. But social media is so great, and so is just technology that, you and I can hop on and do this
Yeah.
is astounding to me.
Well, you are very like when I first met you, like such a bubbly individual, like completely right away making friends. Like I
I do remember one of the first, like me showing you my bruise. I don't know if you remember that within like
Yep.
10 minutes of meeting you. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And I mean that was and again, like that took like that's a weekend where like six strangers got together. Like that just kind of like and I don't think I'm actually an extrovert. I think I'm very much an introvert. I don't like big crowds or anything like that. But yeah, no, I definitely got the bubbly, like super friendly. But you also run a business, and running a business, you kind of have to be outgoing and out there, right?
Yeah. Yeah, and I'm definitely outgoing and out there, but I also like I'm a homebody. I love to be on my couch at night with the big, king size fuzzy blanket and the pets and reading a book or playing on my phone, whatever it is. I do love that. That's what I look forward to. Even when I go out I had a couple parties and weddings out on the lake this summer. 10 o'clock rolls around and I go, I could just be on my couch. That'd be okay. So
I mean,
I love
yeah,
people,
weddings
but
and stuff are fun, but then it comes to a point where we're just like, okay, I've peopled enough now. It's time to go
exactly.
home.
Yeah.
Um, so talking about the fishing stuff, you run a fishing lodge. For yourself, does living on an island do you take advantage more of the opportunities to fish, or do you fish less or more so than what you did before you lived on an island? About the same?
I'll say what I say to most people. If you want to spend a lot of time fishing, do not become a tourist operator.
Oh,
Do not. Um, we do fish a lot. This injuries kind of put me back. When we first moved here, we were like brook trout anglers. We would hike out to these back lakes because Lake Temagmi was so intimidating. And it was, once a week we were heading out to these back lakes and catching these beautiful brookies. Spent a lot of time fishing the first year or two. And then when I started my own business, it just got harder and we didn't really have the right equipment for the lake. And then finally, my husband started upgrading. He does this thing where he'll buy one thing for really cheap and then sell it and just keep upgrading until all of a sudden we have like a beautiful fishing boat. So that's what he did. And that was a game changer. That got me out to have a trolling motor and everything, got me out a lot more.
yeah.
And so in many ways, I do fish a lot more because it's right here, but it's not as big of a, like if you were to come up here for a weekend of lake trout fishing, that would be this huge event for you, right? So it kind of like takes the magic out of it in its own way.
Hmm. Yeah.
But that being said, I did get to target Aurora trout a few years back because there's a lake in our zone that has Aurora trout, which is like one of the most rare species of trout. So that was really cool that I got to do that, and having the access to those things is great. I mean, I'll let you know in a year from now how the fishing is off my island, but I've seen the photo books and there's people catching nice fish off these docks, so I'm really excited.
Has have you and Riley, right? Husband
Yeah.
Riley, have you guys started kind of looking around where you're gonna put bungalows and stuff? Or
Yeah, we have a pretty good spot we like for the bungalows for the most part that we've done a few years in the past, so we'll probably try something similar to that. That's about 5 kilometers from our actual island.
okay,
And then around our island, we've been mapping and checking things out, and we found some pretty good holes for people, so we're really excited. I don't know. This lodge, Catch Any Lodge, hasn't operated in the winter in like 15 years, so we're
oh,
excited we're excited
are
to put our name on it.
are your bungalows on the island, or are they off island and then you just take them? Like,
So we have them on a land use permit, like where they're stored,
yeah,
and they're,
that's the word I was
they're
looking
just
for.
stored.
Sorry.
Yeah, yeah. So they're stored all winter on this land use permit, and then, or sorry, all summer, and then in the winter we put them on a sleigh and you bring them out and find the spot. We do have to move them from because lake trout here opens February 15th, which is pretty late, but we want to start our season before that, so we
Yeah.
start with walleye and whitefish. And then around the 10th of February, we gear up and we move the huts to a little bit of a deeper water for that lake trout bite.
So how long do you guys usually like your season? How long does it usually last?
I think we've averaged about 9 weeks a season in the winter.
That's not
So
bad.
it's fast paced. It's a lot of work in a short amount of time.
Yeah.
By the time mid March, we joke with the customers, if you want good customer service, come in January, February, don't come in March. We're so burnt out by then that, we just want to go home every day and sleep.
At least you're honest.
Um,
Don't book with us in March, but and
March
then
is a good time to come though because it's so warm. But a lot of the people that come in March tend to be self-sufficient.
and so end of March, you're packing up and then turning around, getting ready for open water season, right? Getting your lodges and stuff ready.
Yeah, and um, I also own a property management company, so I basically service island properties for people in the summer. That's how I make my money in the summer, which is landscaping, gardening, opening cottages, cleaning, painting, anything basically that you could think of. And so I always have to prepare for that as well.
Oh my.
And yeah, we have to have our huts off the ice on by March 31st. My husband's birthday is March 23rd, so we always try to have everything done by his birthday so we can just relax and enjoy his birthday.
Well, that's nice, and it's nice to get things done early. Then you're not stressing like, oh my god, the day before. You're like, oh my god, and with ice, you never know, right?
Yeah,
Like,
and we've been pretty lucky, but one year we did have to cancel our last week because not because of the ice, but because of the snow. We need
okay,
snow to be able to pull our huts off the ice because
yeah,
they need to go into the bush, and if we don't have snow, we can't do that. So one year we had to cancel the week ahead, and there's first of all the financial part of that is not fun, but the letting people down part sucks even more. And
yeah,
having to say to 10 groups, we can't do it this year. I'm sorry.
hmm
Not my favorite, but it's comes
yeah.
with
It's
territory.
and like a safety thing too. Like you don't obviously you want to make sure it's safe. It's going to work for them. It's going to work for you. And at the end of the day, you're just looking out in their best interest, right? So,
Exactly, exactly. And most people are very understanding. I mean, it takes a special person to want to come and sleep on the ice, right? So
oh, I would
typically
do it.
people are,
I
oh,
would spend
it's
all
great.
winter.
Have you done it yet? Have you slept on the
I
ice yet?
I have. I've slept on Nipissing multiple times. It's my favorite way to fish. I remember waking up in the morning and my tip up just went off, and I was like, "Oof!" And it was like 4 in the morning, and I was like, "Okay, cool." And I mean, pretty decent sized walleye, like
Nice.
overnight. Like those day trips are nice and everything like that, but like fishing is usually good like really early in the morning or like later at night. Like the evening bite, like those are kind of your better fishing
Yeah.
times. So the day trips are nice, like if you want to get the kids out or whatever. But I would sleep on the ice for every trip. Like,
I love it. We still do it. Like we run this business and we still, try to pick 2 or 3 nights a season that we can do it and we enjoy it. And I don't know if were you elected as the cook typically in those situations or
usually, yep, that's
yeah.
me.
Yeah,
I'm
so that doesn't
my social medias.
yeah. I did eat a bunch of your food at that fishing weekend too, so I get it. So there's always that element too, right, where you kind of get to cook and have your line down, and I don't know, I really love it. I understand why people want to do it. And
Yeah. And for your bungalows, just out of curiosity, because now I'm like, well, I might need to come up there. Like, is it like two, three, four-person bungalows, like stoves, like all that kind of stuff?
yeah, we're pretty well equipped compared to a lot of people, at least on this lake. Nipissing
Mhm.
is different because uh, the snow load makes a big difference in how your huts can look and weigh because they
Yeah.
just have ice. They don't get this 3 feet of snow that we do. And so they are lucky in the sense that they can have these big, ice castles, things like that. We can't have
Yeah.
that here.
Yeah.
So we have a 2-person hut. I love that one. That's got 2 beds and a 2 burner top.
Mhm.
And so it's perfect for a couple. And or good friends, and it's a budget-friendly option, let's say. And then the four-person and the six-person, they have full stove, oven. The heater is like a nice, new propane furnace. And the beds are, we try to eliminate as many bunks as possible. Sometimes we get the older crowd and they don't want to get up on a bunk bed, and I can't
Yeah.
blame them. So we've tried to eliminate some of the bunks. Um, and then, yeah, so then the four and the six-person as well.
Well, that's awesome. Yeah, I definitely
Yeah,
need to look into that for this winter, I think. Come up to Temagmi,
should.
try it out.
Yeah.
Um, so, what is your personal favorite and least favorite thing about living on an island?
My least favorite thing, seems so stupid, but my least favorite thing, and I think about this a lot, is that I can't just like Uber Eats food to my house.
That's the least favorite. That's not what I
So
expected.
yeah,
That
no,
was
I know it's ridiculous. I am so jealous of people that can just like order food, get it to or even Amazon packages. They're like, oh yeah, I ordered Amazon something from Amazon. It showed up 6 hours later. I don't know what that's like. So it's not. I will have to say freezing pipes like plumbing is a close second. I will say not having
I was
water.
thinking something like that first, but no, it's the Uber Eats, which is fantastic. That is a great answer. Like, absolutely
I'm just
fantastic.
being honest.
Oh my
um,
god. I'm gonna be giggling about that and be like, "Oh my god."
that's
Of
why I
all
said I
things.
know it's crazy of all the things. But frozen plumbing is definitely a close second. We're pretty happy with our plumbing here in this new house and on this new island, but the stuff we had on the old island was not great, and we could kind of guarantee 3 to 4 days in the winter that we didn't have water. And when you don't have like running water, you don't have a toilet. So I guess that's the biggest thing to remember.
Yeah.
And that's not a great fun time. Especially, I love my husband, but there's just some things that he doesn't need to be involved in. So
Okay. And your favorite thing?
I love ice out. There's always a little span of time that you get absolute privacy because no one's breaking ice, no one's on the ice, and it's like this huge, crazy renewal. It's the spring, and I'm always watching people like you in Southern Ontario, and everyone's like doing their spring hunting, their turkey hunts, things like that. And I still have ice. I still don't have grass. It's so then all of a sudden the birds show up and the ice starts to melt, and I don't know. There's something just super magical about it.
Well, yeah. I mean, in the spring, like we're turkey hunting sometimes in t-shirts and shorts, and you're still got ice. That's
Yeah, yeah.
that's
And
a
so the privacy is just it's really delightful. You know that no one's stopping in. You can do whatever you want. No one's going to knock on your door randomly. There's no boat showing up randomly. And now that we own this lodge, I know that come kind of opening weekend in May, I don't have privacy until, October when all the guests leave.
yeah. I'm just gonna say that's gonna be. So you're opening for um, open water from May. It's May to October.
Yeah, we're gonna obviously Mother Nature dictates how early we can open. I want to be open for when walleye opens, so
Of
that'll be
course.
the main thing. And then in the fall, I don't know the fall fishing. First of all, there's not a lot of people who can get the time off to come in the fall. It's just sort of a weird time of year, right? So we get a lot of retired folks. That's what we see in the fall. We'll see how it goes if it needs to be retreats or something different to stay full through September, October. But yeah, the plan is to kind of shut everything down at the end of October.
All right. We're approaching that hour mark, so I'm gonna give you one last question, then we'll do the final outro and final comments. Usually I finish off the episode asking for people's opinion, like what's their advice for people getting into like hunting and fishing. So if someone come up to you and says, I'm looking at buying an island, what would your first piece of advice be for them? Like if I came up to you and was
Uh,
like, hey Dom, I want to buy an island.
yeah. So I
What's your
would.
advice? Like you're okay, this is what you need to know.
So the first thing I would say is make sure that the dock isn't facing the leeward side because you don't want your boats bouncing or your docks ripping off from ice, and no one thinks about that. Um, but I guess that's sort of just like a very specific thing that I would say to someone. I think more or less I'd just say, are you ready for the task of that and what it entails? Like it sounds fun, it does. But the other day, I had to bring my huge Costco load of groceries across in a snowstorm in a boat at 7 o'clock at night in the dark, and that's not for everyone. And even with our good planning and having done it for 5 years, we still showed up late. We still showed up in the dark. That was not the plan. And so things happen, and I everything is hard. Everything is difficult. Are you ready for that? I would is what I would say.
So it's not just like owning a regular house. It's like no, take your mental load, times it by 10, owning
Yeah,
this, living on an island.
yeah. And
Okay, well,
of course, I get to, I in bed, I can see the lake through the window while I'm in bed. There's so many bonuses to it, but if you don't have the right skin for it, it's just not going to work. You really got to love being outside. You really got to love the outdoors. You have to have an understanding of Mother Nature and a very healthy respect for her.
well, yeah, that's a huge thing too. Like if you're not somebody that doesn't really know how to read ice signs, that could lead to your death if you're like, oh, this is okay to walk on and fall right down. So,
Exactly. And we're coming at that time of year where I'm waiting for those stories to start showing up in the news, and I know that it's going to happen any day, and it always breaks my heart.
well, yeah, that's kind of the downside of that. But, um, well, thank you for coming on. So you're opening up. Are your books open now for people to book?
Yep, if anyone wants to book Temagmi Outdoors, Catchin' Any Lodge. So we're, Catchin' Any Lodge, home of Temagmi Outdoors. Catchin' Any Lodge is the name of the island that we live on. And we have on ice bungalows. We'll have 2 cabins available for rent. I don't know how much winter guiding we're going to do in the first year while we establish ourselves with this new routine. But in the future, we're hoping to also offer winter guiding. And in May, we'll be opening up our doors for cabins and some guiding services.
And your Instagram, Temagmi Outdoors. Well, your business Instagram, Temagmi Outdoors, for people that want
Yep.
to. And then your website's attached to that, right, for booking?
Yep, absolutely. So, yeah, it's even attached to my TikTok and my link tree. You can go to Temagmi Outdoors. It'll bring you to the website. There's contact forms, a lot of information.
And if
I am a one.
oh, no, go ahead.
I am a one-man show, so I am currently building and updating the new website to reflect everything. But bear with me; it's going to take some time. I will
Look at
have that
you,
hopefully. I know it's crazy. So again, it's
badass
much
women.
easier. Right, right.
Yeah,
We can do these things. It's
badass
amazing.
women
It's
doing badass things. This is exactly
and
why I started this podcast.
and I love it. And I've been listening. I've been loving it. And I want to say, if you do, you're asking your other guests how do you get into the outdoors, or what would you say to someone? I just want to say that you just need to start because I was so intimidated, and that fishing weekend we did changed my life. I really became so much more independent. And instead of thinking to yourself, I'm terrible, I'm scared that I'm going to be terrible the first time, think of it as would would it be weird? It would be weird if you were good the first time, wouldn't it? Like you're almost guaranteed to be terrible, and I think that's great. That's a great place to start. And instead of being scared of it, I think we need to embrace it.
Well, yeah, and then the only place to go from there is up. You're
Exactly.
always
So,
it's always learning. Like, and that weekend we
just
did
do the
like that was
thing.
that was such a fun weekend. Like, again, I was kind of apprehensive. I was like, I don't know any of these women, and I
Yeah.
I have a very big stranger danger thing. I don't really like strangers. I'm like, I'm going to stay in somebody's house that I have never met before, except
Yeah.
through social media, and there's going to be
Yeah.
6 other girls there. Okay.
Yeah.
And then I'm cooking for the
Yeah.
lot of you, and I'm like, cool. So that was way outside of my comfort zone, but I was like, you know what? Dive right in. It's a bunch of
Yeah.
badass women, and I was like, this is how we're gonna grow this, making connections. And over a year later, here you and I are sitting down talking. So
Yeah. It's
it's
great. It's great.
amazing
And
what it kind of brings you.
yeah.
Um,
And that's the whole thing. Women just supporting women. It's so much better than being competitive.
exactly. Like we
Yeah.
just all support each other, and like good things will happen. Like,
Exactly. That's the
but
message I want to get across. Yeah.
exactly. So, again, thank you for coming on. If you don't follow Dom on TikTok, you need to. It's Read Between the Pines. Her TikToks are awesome. She
Thank you.
delves more into island life, day to day videos. Some of her videos are quite entertaining. Like I said, the big Costco pillow. I really followed that whole. I followed that whole story arc. I feel like it's a TV show. There's different story arcs watching your
The
TikTok.
pillow was a huge arc too. People loved the pillow.
Oh, it was huge, and I was like, "That I want this pillow. Like, I want this
Yeah.
pillow." And the fact that she got it from Costco to the island makes it even better. And there was like multiple videos on it.
Oh yeah, yeah.
It's like
And it's here now, you know. It came to this island now and it's a centerpiece feature in my living room. So,
that's why, again, if you're not following her on TikTok, you need to, because it's like you're watching like a Grey's Anatomy, but like for the outdoors. There's different story arcs, and
I love
like
that.
it's awesome. So definitely, if you're
Oh,
not following
thanks.
her, you need to. Please check out Temagmi Outdoors. I know I'm going to. I've fished with Dom before, and now I think I need to come up to her neck of the woods. And I mean, I always like exploring new lakes, and I want a laker, so
Yeah,
definitely need to
let's
look
do
into
it.
that. But so thank you again for coming on, and thank you for the listeners for listening and continued support. Again, if you know somebody or you want to come on and talk about your own experiences, and I don't follow you, or I don't know who you are, just reach out to me. We can talk. I'm sure you all are amazing women out there, and I'm just trying to get everybody together. So please don't hesitate to reach out. Yeah, thank you guys again.
Thank you so much.
No problem.